Okay, we are planning to record this so that people who can't make it right now are able to watch it back. So if you're uncomfortable being videoed, then turn your video off. And to make it easier so we can all hear, if you've got a question, and put your hand up or put your question in the chat and we will ask it to the appropriate person at the right time. Are we ready to go? Yeah, so this is the first open meeting for Camp 100, and I'm Emma. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm part of the comms team. Hannah is also part of the comms team, but her microphone does not work. So she's here with us, but will be on the chat. We're planning to have these meetings quite regularly because we know that getting feedback from everybody, all stages of the planning for this camp is going to make it ultimately a better camp for everybody. So thank you for joining us for this very first one. We've launched Camp 100 this week, which is really exciting. We've got our social media channels have all gone live. So that's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We've got a logo. And we sent out a newsletter, an e-newsletter through National Woodcraft Folk, which is probably how you know that this meeting is happening. Thank you if you're already following us on social media. If not, go and follow on your preferred channel. There's some information about the camp we've already given out. So we know that it's happening between the 27th of July and the 6th of August 2025, which is the Woodcraft Folk centenary year. And we know that we are returning to Kelmarsh Hall, which was the site for Common Ground last summer. But handing over to Jack now to give you a little bit more about the camp.
Hello, I am Jack. I use he, him pronouns, and I am one of the two coordinators of the camp, along with Seren, who is not here. And I'm really excited about the camp and have been for about a year. So it's really nice to be able to talk to other people about the camp, and hopefully they will be excited about it too. I think our international camps and our big camps are one of the best things that Woodcraft does. It's our coming together and showing the people in our groups and the adults in our groups how we are a movement that can do things together and that can change things and that can do lots of different things. So it was great to have lots of people last year at Common Ground having a really great time. And I think one of the advantages of this camp is it's only a couple of years after that. So we're going to have learned a lot, and there'll be various things we'll tweak and change, and there'll be various things that we'll recognize as having gone really well, and we'll keep them again for future times. So a few of the key things that I'd like to share about Camp 100. The theme of the camp is going to be the next 100 years. We've settled on that because we thought it was a way of celebrating our anniversary while also making a camp that is inclusive to people from other IFM organisations, from other organisations and campaigns in the UK, that we might be able to get different people working in all sorts of different areas to look at what the next 100 years might look like for them in a way that is relevant to them, rather than in a way that hinges solely on us, so we can look outwards as we go into our next 100 years. Another thing that we want as a really big aspect of the camp is to try and have a step forward in how we support our volunteers and how we make sure that all of the people, whether that's an elfin on camp doing their clan duties or whether that's an adult on camp doing all sorts of different roles, feels supported and like they're having a good time, and that the camp is there for them as well as everybody else there. One of the key ways we're doing that is we're trying to make it so that every volunteer on camp will have at least one day off, and working that in a structured way. And obviously, compared to the world, one day off is not a huge amount, but it would be a huge improvement from where we have been in the past. And it would also enable us to think about how we are planning these camps and planning how we deliver woodcraft for the next 100 years in a sustainable way that doesn't rely on anybody getting burnt out or exhausted, because these camps can be energizing, life-affirming, wonderful, but they can also be exhausting, tiring, and emotional. And we want to make sure that people's journey through that is a positive one for as many people as possible. So that's something that I'm really excited about, trying to make that work so that not only do people doing a central role get a day off, but that people who are their village KPs or people who have bought an elfing group, all sorts of different people, getting that time to reflect and enjoy some of the camp for themselves. Like one of the things I'd love to do in my day off is go to a workshop, because I've not done that at an international camp for many, many years, and I'd like to. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about. There's various things that we will iterate on and improve because we're able to have it at the same site and able to have it after a short period of time. There are various of the logistical challenges on having a camp on a site with less built-in infrastructure that we will be able to address. We want to keep building on things where we're engaging the children and young people that make up our movement and make up many of our sister movements around the world in how we conceive and deliver this camp. There's a really nice resource that you may well have seen being shared of the 100 hundreds that we've created, which are 100 challenges to do with the number 100. So whether it's that you want to come up with 100 things that you would change in the next 100 years, or whether you would like to walk 100 miles or write a story exactly 100 words long, whatever it is, there's lots of those things that hopefully our groups will use and do to get excited about the camp, and we'll share that to build that sense of a movement as we go. Another thing that big difference is that for the first time for a big camp like this, we have people on the board doing accessibility. Cherry is one of those. And that's because Woodcraft should be an organization for everyone. Our values of cooperation and peace and working together in the environment are values that should be able to reach all sorts of different people in society. As part of that, reaching lots of people, one of the things we want to do with Camp 100 is to reach out to lots of those people who have given a lot to Woodcraft folk, who have, it's been a very important part of their life, but who it's drifted away from slightly through all sorts of circumstances, and to try and welcome those people back and reconnect them with local groups and districts, to support them to get involved in volunteering. And that's one of the ways that we will try to work towards a more sustainable volunteering culture, where we have people who can take on roles when people need a break and enable everybody to have a wonderful camp. I am incredibly excited about it already. We've already got lots of people who are all fantastic working on it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it taking up lots of the next 2 years of my life.
Thank you, Jack. We've had a few questions for you already, and we may have some more for you at the end. The first one is, can I come for part of the camp?
Yes. So we are going to, for Common Ground, for those of you who were there was a first 5 days and a second 5 days. And we quite liked that because it gave a clear changeover day. So simplified people arriving and leaving site. But we wanted to change that slightly to add a bit more flexibility. And so we're still going to have one changeover day, but instead of it being halfway through the camp, it will be approximately 3 days through the camp. So somebody could choose to come for the first 3 days of the camp, possibly, particularly if they were a younger elfin, maybe they haven't camped outside their district before, they're not quite sure, but they'd like to give it a go and they'd like to see this that Woodcraft has to offer. Or somebody could choose to come for the last 7 days of the camp. Perhaps they came to Common Ground for 5 days, really loved it and would like to stay for a bit longer. Or, and I hope that most people will do this, because my experience on these big camps is that if people come for part of it, and need to leave part way, they end up not wanting to leave. And if they arrive part way, they end up somewhat wistful about some of the things that happened before. So we want those opportunities so that people can access it at whatever level they're ready for. But the full experience of the camp is the full 10 days, and we'd like to encourage as many people as possible to come for all of it.
Do we know how much the camp will cost?
We don't have an exact figure yet. I am working on various different things. It will cost approximately £265. And while that is incredible value compared to all sorts of other things that people pay for in society, people get a huge amount from that. We do recognize that that is going to be expensive for a number of our children, a number of our volunteers. So we're also going to be working to develop an access fund, and some of that will be funded out of that core budget, and some of that we will do extra fundraising drives at various points. And through that access fund, we hope to support lots of other people, whether they're coming as children or whether they're coming as adults, to be able to come to the camp without money being a financial barrier. We will also be providing support and advice for districts on fundraising. So if your district is one that has particular expertise in fundraising, get in touch and we'd love to work with you to look at ways we can share that so that lots of districts can bring as many people as possible.
I think there's already some advice about fundraising for Camp 100 on the Woodcraft website if people go there. Jack, do people need to be a member of Woodcraft Folk to come to Camp 100?
If they are coming as part of the Woodcraft Folk, they will need to be a member of Woodcraft Folk. That could be as part of their local group, that could be as an adult member. So if you're an adult member in Woodcraft Folk, you will need to be signed up as a member of Woodcraft Folk. You will need to have a DBS or PVG if you are in a role of responsibility for children and young people. Some people will be coming to the camp from other countries, and they will need either similar safeguarding checks in those countries, or us to have worked with them on what their safeguarding procedures and how that translates into the camp. It won't be something I didn't mention earlier. It won't be an IFM camp, International Falcon Movement Socialist Education International camp. It will be a camp where we invite lots of our international friends and partners to come and celebrate with us, to come and have a wonderful educational program. It's also the centenary of Roter Falcon, the Austrian organization, and they will be having a camp early in the year. So I'm hoping to work closely with them so we can link some program. So potentially some groups can go from one to the other, and we can tie in those things as cooperative events.
Thank you, Jack. I think we're going to go to Joe now to hear a little bit about programme. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself and say a bit about your team?
Hey, I'm Joe. I use he, him pronouns. The programme team currently consists of 5 people. So I am just one representative of the programme team. But I, along with someone else, will be leading on the centres. So that's sort of my particular area. Coincidentally, I also ran the evaluation for Camp 100. So one of my goals for programme is to really integrate lessons learned from that into programme for this next camp. I'm really excited about it. I know that the rest of the programme team is as well. Sorry, did I get it wrong there? I meant common ground. So I'm really excited about Camp 100. I know the rest of the programme team is, because we've got some cool ideas, including one big sort of putting more resource into village program, because that proved really popular, coming around, expanding sort of main stage program a bit, so we have some sort of earlier evening stuff, as well as like the usual centres that we have. Yeah, so I'll sort of leave that introduction there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Would you like
good stuff.
Would you like to tell us a bit about the centres, Joe? Like, how many centres will there be? Do you know what their themes are going to be?
Yes, so I'm just going to take a look at the list we've got written down. So I just don't want to miss any. So at the moment, what we have is, as a programme team, we've sort of put together a preliminary list of centres that we would definitely like to be there. But that doesn't mean it's definitive. Like I said, I think because we're putting a bit more emphasis into kind of village programme, main stage programme, there is a chance, there won't be just as many centres as previously. However, if people volunteer to run as many centres, I'm more than happy to. So on our kind of preliminary list that we would really like there to be, and we're really keen to find people to run them, was the woodworking space, cinema. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Just give me 1 sec. Sorry, I've stepped out of a 90th birthday party. I just got interrupted by one of the guests. So yeah, Woodwork Centre, Cooperation Centre, the Under 10 Centre, which was really successful at Common Ground, and I think was so successful we sort of want to expand it a little bit more. You know, maybe give them a large marquee. Cinema, Solidarity Centre, Cooperation Centre, and one that I will admit is slightly driven by me is a STEM centre, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, because that's what I work in science. So yeah, there's those 6 centres sort of on our list of we would really like these ones, but that doesn't mean that's it. You know, we'd love people to volunteer to run those centres, but we'd also love people to come with their own ideas that for centres outside of that list that they want to run. You know, we really want this to be kind of a collaborative process.
Brilliant. So you're looking for people to get involved in running centres. We've got an email address, info@camp100.org.uk. That would be a good way for people to get in touch, and we can pass them on, anybody who's interested, pass their email addresses on to Joe and the rest of the team. Is there anybody here who has a question for the programme team? You can put it in the chat if you do. Any of the people who've joined us tonight. Unless, Joe, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to say, because I have stepped out from 90th birthday, I will be going back to that. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer now, but I will be stepping off out of the meeting after this. So we are more than happy to answer any questions right now.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment, Joe, so I think we can say thank you for being here, and we'll pass any questions that come on to you after via email.
Yeah, more than happy to respond by email. Thank you.
Bye, Joe.
Say as well that we're also planning to have a wide game, which we haven't had for recent international camps, and have various ideas of how that might work, and various people excited to and working on planning that. So
it's going to be great.
Okay. We're going to go next to the accessibility team, which we've got Cherry here from. Would you like to introduce yourself and say a bit about your team, which is very new?
Hey, I'm Cherry, pronouns are she, her, and I'm just one part of the accessibility team, which has already been mentioned, is a new team. And our goal is kind of to start having these conversations about disability and inclusion and what that looks like when we're camping, but also hopefully looking a little bit wider than that to start having these conversations at other woodcraft events and start making it a part of woodcraft culture properly, because I think as much as woodcraft folk has these aims and values of being inclusive, of cooperation and all of that, I think it can be very hard to start having these conversations. I think it's something that has been ignored for quite a long time in society, and as a result of that woodcraft, but we are starting to build these things into the structure of camps, with Camp 100 being the first one. So I'm really excited to be working on that, and I'm really excited to be working with all the other teams at Camp 100 to make sure everything is as accessible as we can make it. Yeah, so hopefully
Brilliant.
it will be enjoyable for everyone.
Thank you, Cherry. I think you're looking for people to get in touch with you, aren't you? About if they had any difficulties at Common Ground, if they feel confident sharing those with you, or if they have any suggestions for how to make this camp more accessible. If people send anything like that to the same email address, info@camp100.org.uk, we'll pass that on to Cherry and her team.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Anything else you want to add, or shall we move on?
I was just going to say, I don't know if there's an option for people to be able to make anything anonymous if they want to, if you're passing things on to us.
Yeah, if it comes to that email address, we can pass on the message without an email address attached to it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because we're looking as much for issues to solve, because everyone's experience of camp is going to be different, and we want to make sure we're getting as wide a range of opinions as possible. So thank you.
Maybe we could look to having a Google form where people don't have to leave an email address. Yeah, we'll try and set that up and share that via social media. Okay.
And also, if people have experience to other organisations of events which have been particularly accessible and where their needs have been particularly well met in ways that we can learn from, one of the things we want to do with this camp is to look beyond woodcraft and acknowledge that we don't always have all the answers, that often there are lots of things that we can do better and that we can work out from other people and by listening to other people.
Okay, we have one more board member here today. We've got Delilah. Would you like to introduce yourself and say what team you come from?
Hello, my might be a bit slow, so I hope you can hear me okay. I'm Delilah, my pronouns are she or they, and I'm a member of the volunteer support team. So kind of as has been talked about a bit already, a really big part of Camp 100 is making sure that everybody gets one day off, and that's going to require like a lot of organising and planning beforehand, both in terms of how we set up the kind of central organising team, but also in terms of how individual districts think about and organise to bring people to camp, and hopefully central organising team will also be able to support individual districts with that. For example, stuff around KPs, trying to make sure that we can support districts to make sure that people who take on those roles within the kind of smaller areas get support to also have days off. So I personally am new to this team, but one of my the other members of my team, Molly, was working on it last time, and Common Ground really showed us the important and the need for having a volunteer support space. So we're also really hoping to like continue with PEB and improve on the issues that happen, like the issues that people had last time, and make sure it really can work for everybody. So yeah, hopefully as we like in the next couple of years, we should be getting in contact with local districts as well as the other members of the organising team to see how best we can support people to make sure that nobody gets burnt out at Camp 100.
Would you like to share any of the successes from Common Ground with people who maybe didn't go to Common Ground?
So Common Ground, we had PEP, which was the like volunteer support space, and it was a place where people could come, anybody who's volunteering, and they could get tea and coffee, they could sit in the quiet. We had an extra space for people who needed just a bit of time away, and it was a space that people could go to where they wouldn't be asked to do more jobs, because often it can be you take your day off, you go, and then somebody sees you, and then you kind of end up being dragged into doing more things. So that was a really good thing to have, and hopefully bringing that back will like allow people to actually take their days off and not end up getting dragged into just doing other jobs.
Can you tell us what PEB stands for?
Off the top of my head, I can't. I can't remember it.
I
would have said.
I think it's something like positive energy bubble. Jack, was that right? Yeah, positive energy bubble.
One of the things that we're going to build on from Common Ground is that some of the feedback was rightly that lots of people didn't have the time and capacity to go to somewhere to be supported and needed that support to come to them. So one of the people in our volunteer support team has referred to it as kind of Peb on a bike, with the idea that people can come round and bring hot drinks and talk to people and listen to what's happening to them and support them in different ways without needing them to be able to take the mental space and time to go somewhere away from the role they're currently doing. We obviously want them to be able to do that, but recognizing that sometimes we'll need to go to them first is an important step to make sure everybody's feeling supported and cared for.
Is there anything else you'd like to share, Delilah, about your plans for Camp 100?
We don't have anything more specific right now other than plans to talk to people and see what would be the things that they need best. I personally haven't been part of an organising team for something on this scale before. I have helped organise DF events, so that gives me a bit of experience, but I really think speaking to districts, seeing which districts, like what works well for them and what doesn't, and also like talking to other people in the central organising team is kind of our next step. So hopefully we should get in contact with us, or hopefully we will be getting in contact with people about finding out what already works well and also what things people would like us to think about ways to improve.
So again, if you want to get in touch with the volunteer support team, you can use that info@camp100.org.uk email address. So that's everybody from the board, apart from us, Hannah. I suppose we should say something from comms. So we're the comms team, and we are looking for people to join our team, as pretty much every team is. We are using social media to try and reach people, but we want to hear if there's any other ways that we can be reaching more people. And we've got a podcast coming soon, which is really exciting, and a website coming soon. Yeah, I think that's the update from us. We don't have any questions in the chat from anybody else. So unless anybody actually at the meeting would like to ask a question, I think we might be about to wrap up. So if people who are watching this back, who aren't watching it live, have questions, then they can contact us via the social media channels. That's Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or they can use that email address info@camp100.org.uk. Thank you so much for coming to this first one. This is really, starting what we hope will be a really helpful process all the way through to guide our planning. And yeah, hopefully see you next time. Bye, everybody.